you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So you have to ask yourself, what problem have I solved? What question did I answer? What challenge did I overcome? That is going to be a place that we look to for your uniqueness, which is going to be the most monetizable.
All right, everybody, what's up? And welcome back to this week's episode of It Takes Grit. I am super fired up. You guys are going to love this episode. I got my buddy Rory on the house today. He is going to be telling us all about creating your own brand DNA, how to create a business. And Rory, we met through Lewis House's mastermind. I'm so excited. I felt like we clicked when we met, and I'm just so happy to finally have you on the show. Welcome.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you, Rebecca. I mean, I feel the same way about you. I just, I look at everything that you built and what's the trajectory of where that takes you in 5 or 10 years. And it's absolutely extraordinary. It's the same way I think of Lewis, right? I love working with Lewis because I just go, what's the not where is he at today, but what's the trajectory that he is on, and where is he going to be in 10 or 20 years? And so, it's an honor to be here.
And I really like that you said that, because it's all about where you're going. Like, loads of us go, well, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Now, I'm looking at some of the things on your resume: New York Times bestseller, viral TED Talk, and co-founder of Brand Builders Business, which is just huge now. But it didn't always start off like that, did it? So let's just take it back and see, what was Rory like growing up? What were the things that you were into? What were you doing? And how did you create this business that you have now that, from the outside world looks like beautiful and sparkly and everything's come together, but we all know that it's not always the way when it gets started.
Well, yeah, It Takes Grit is something I also have a natural affinity for, just because I built my personal brand originally was built on the concept of self-discipline. It was about overcoming procrastination and build self-discipline, because that's what I built the early part of my life based on. So I was born in a trailer park. I was born to a single mom. My mom did not have a lot of money, and my mom got into direct sales. And she got into Mary Kay cosmetics. So I grew up around women who were constantly teaching me like these principles of success. And it also means I know more about makeup than most guys do. So I was in love from a very early age with goals and time management and self-talk and leadership development. And, was in student council. And my mom always told me, she said, Rory, you're going to go to college and you are going to get a full ride scholarship, because there's no way that I will be able to pay. And so that was like part of the vision I set out on. I started studying leadership in high school. I was student body president. I ended up becoming valedictorian. I was a disciplined SOB. I had side hustles all through college. I was working at Sunglass Hut. I raked baseball fields. I was a competitive umpire on the weekends. And then when I was in college, I got recruited to work in a direct sales company. And I went door to door 14 hours a day, 6 days a week for 5 summers while I was in college. And I made $250,000 over those 5 summers, going door to door. And then I was a recruiter, right? Like I was a leader, and used that money to start our first company. And that was where I met my wife. So I had this guy that I met in college, and he introduced me to this girl named AJ, and the 3 of us started a company. And that was back in 2006. We grew that company to 200 people. It was an 8-figure, so north of $10 million a year in annual revenues. And AJ and I sold that company in 2018. And so we exited out of that business, started completely over. Over the course of that time, we had launched my first book, Take the Stairs, which was a #2 New York Times bestseller and #1 Wall Street Journal. And I had my second book, Procrastinate on Purpose. And that's when we did the TED Talk. And basically but in 2018, when we exited that business, all my social media was gone, all my email list was gone, all of our customers were gone, my entire network, Rolodex, everything other than like, my knowledge, our knowledge. And we happened to get a call one day from a guy named Lewis Howes, who I'd known for years. And he said, man, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I really need some help with my personal brand and where we're going. And I feel like you can help me. And it was literally the day we exited the other company. And
Mm.
so we're like, sure, dude, come on over. And he was the one that said, this is your new business. I'm going to tell everybody what you did for me, and you're going to teach people how to do the things that you have helped me with. And that led me to you, and that led us here. So it was a lot of doors slammed in the face, a lot of 14-hour days, a lot of no's, a lot of pain, a lot of discipline, to use your word. It was a lot of grit. And but hey, here we are.
That's so cool. And you know what's funny is that a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a team training, and I was talking about making yourself more valuable, because the more value that you have, basically the more knowledge that you have in your brain, the more value you have, and the more people are going to want to be engaged with you and want to have you. And so even though that you lost everything, because when you exit a company, those people who don't know who are watching, most of the time you're selling off your social media, you don't have the contacts anymore, you have to sell your email, like everything goes. When you exit, like you exit, you aren't allowed to just go tap in and try and find those people again. But what you do have is all of the knowledge that's still in your brain. And if you have value and if you have knowledge, you're able to start again. And even if you're like, hey, I'm brand new at starting, if you create more knowledge into your brain, you have more value. And therefore, people like Lewis Howes are going to be like, hey, I already know that you have value. I want to be part of what you're doing. Because there's lots of people watching right now, and they're starting, and they're just getting started in their side hustle. And they're like, why are people not reaching out to me? Why are people not wanting to get started with what I'm doing? And I think at the bottom line is that how much value are you providing to make people trust you that they actually want to reach out to you and get started? Would you kind of align with that?
Totally. Yeah. And here's what's crazy, right? Is like, we already built an 8-figure business. Like, and yet I'm in the same, that person you just described, I am that person now. So even though we've done this, we're starting over. Like, I just hit 10,000 followers on Instagram, on my new Instagram account. It's been 2 years. Like, it took me 2 years to get back to 10,000. I used to have hundreds of thousands of followers, like on all the different platforms. And so I had to start over. We had to. My wife AJ is actually the CEO of Brand Builders Group. So we are the two founders. We were both founders in the former company, but this company we're the two founders, but she's our CEO. So it's been us and our team. We have about 30 people already now on Brand Builders Group, but we had to start over, providing value and value and value, and like my Instagram feed. You should try to make your feed the best book ever written. Like, you need to put out so much value to people that, like we all think of like, oh, I want to sell someone something and then I'll give them like my knowledge. And I actually think you need to flip it. We use something called the rule of 10, which is, I want to have given 10 times the value and information and knowledge for free to someone before I ask them for money. So if I'm going to ask you for $1,000, I want you to have received $10,000 in quote unquote free advice from me as my brand. And it's a complete reversal of the way that people think. It's like, oh, once you pay me, I'll give you the goods. It's like, no, you need to flip that. You need to go, have people pay you in rears versus pay you in forwards. I give the value first, and then it's almost like you're paying me almost like in a weird way because you feel like you owe me. And it's not really that, but it's just, you cannot lose. And here's the thing too, our clients struggle with this all the time. They have this fear, which is like, well, if I teach everything I know for free, then why would people pay me? And here's what you got to realize. People don't pay for information. People pay for organization and application. You can go listen to our podcast, right? We had you on the Influential Personal Brand podcast. We've interviewed you and Lewis Howes and Shalene Johnson and Jordan Harbinger and just like, the Gretchen Rubin, the huge names. We're giving away tons of stuff, but learning a bunch of little bits of information in random order is super valuable, but it's still, people need help applying it to their life. They need help incorporating it, assimilating it, activating it, making it real. And that's why they still need a course, because they need something that organizes it to be step by step. They still need a coach because they need someone to encourage them and hold them accountable. And you are a great example. Like, you have so many free videos out on YouTube, but people still pay. Why? Because they need the accountability. They need the encouragement. They need the inspiration, not just, the random little bits of information and stuff that you give away for free. So you can do both.
Yeah. And it's like, you have to do the work of a millionaire before you get the money. It's that same kind of thing. So if you're not
totally
more of the work, it's going to come back eventually. But I think a lot of people we live in such a world of instant. It's like, you can get Instacart within 2 hours to your door. You can get anything delivered, Amazon Prime within the next day. So we really are on that instant, but you have to keep going to be able to get that money in return.
Absolutely. So my first book was called Take the Stairs, which was, long before we were teaching personal brand strategy, I was trying to become a personal brand, right? And so that book is about the psychology of overcoming procrastination and inspiring yourself to take action. And we talk about something called the Slinky Effect. Do you remember Slinkies? Did you have a Slinky when you were a kid? You know what I'm talking about? The thing that Slinkies are, they like roll down the stairs. It's interesting because the front part would lead and then the back part would follow. That's exactly how it is with work and discipline and grit. You lead with the work. You do the work now. You do the work today, and eventually you will get paid. Like, people struggle because they go, well, I did the work and the money didn't show up instantly. Well, that's because you quit. That's because you gave up. You stopped taking the stairs. You started going, what you're looking for is this escalator. You're looking for some shortcut that doesn't exist in the real world. Like, you do the work and you always get paid for how hard you work. Sometimes it shows up now, right? Like, sometimes the money comes right now, but it usually doesn't. Usually the work shows up later, but here's the thing. It always shows up eventually. You always eventually get paid for how hard you work, but you have to be willing to put in the work and pay the price now, today, up front.
It's so true. And that's kind of leads me into one of my first questions for you. Is, what do you think that most people struggle with when they're starting a new business or side hustle? Like, what's a thing? I mean, you kind of talked a little bit about procrastination and taking action, but is there one thing that you think that just is where people are going wrong, or what it's hurting them getting started?
Yeah, absolutely. So the number one problem or challenge that every personal brand or small business owner has is they cannot answer this one simple question in one word. And if you can't answer this question in one word, then you're not clear. And here's the question. What problem do you solve? What problem do you solve? If you can't answer that question in one word, you are part of the noise, right? Like, the problem is noise. The problem is the world is crowded. There's, social media has created this the marketplace is crowded, just like you're in a crowded room. And if you don't have clarity, here's what's amazing. Like, if you try to go into a room where a bunch of people are talking and you try to yell, it probably won't stop the room. But if you take like a triangle, like an instrument or like a piece of crystal, and you just clink it, it pierces the noise. It has piercing clarity. And that is what people need in their marketing. That's what people need in their branding. That's what people need in their messaging. Is you need piercing clarity, right? This is and there's a concept that we use. Obviously you know this. You've been a client of ours for a while, and you've been through several trainings. But you okay if we talk about Sheahan's wall for a second?
I was just going to go into that, so it's perfect.
Okay. So there's this concept that we use, this illustration called Sheahan's wall. We name it after a friend of ours, a colleague named Peter Sheahan, who taught this in business like a corporate context, but we think it applies to personal brands, which is that basically in any industry, in any market, in any environment, there's two groups of people. There are those that are unknown, and then there are those that are known. There's like the celebrities, they're the influencers, they're, whatever, they're the industry, the world renowned experts. And between those two is this giant, invisible, very thick wall that we call Sheahan's wall. And this is what everyone's trying to break through, this wall. They're trying to become known, to become trusted, to become more influential so they can have more income and more impact, right? All the things that we talk about. And the problem is you hear all these different ideas. Well, the first problem is you have a lot of things you want to talk about, and you have a lot of things you want to do. And you're like, oh, I should talk about, I could talk about fitness and leadership and teamwork and communication skills and relationships and financial investing and, parenting and, home lifestyle products. And so they have all these different like topics. And then you go onto Facebook and you see ads for all of these different skill sets, like, oh, you need to run a podcast, or you need to run Facebook ads, or you need to manage your social media, or you need copywriting, or like you need to learn how to be a better speaker. And there's all of these different like random skills. And then you hear all of these business models, right? Like, oh, I should do network marketing, or no, I should start a mastermind, or I should do my own live events, or I should do video courses or membership sites, or a coaching program, or I should do consulting. And what happens is you get diluted. And this is the problem, Rebecca. When you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. When you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. So the way around that, the way through Sheahan's wall, is to become the world-leading expert on one thing, to be known for one thing. And then once you break through the wall on that one thing, then you can expand into all sorts of other stuff, right? Like Gary Vaynerchuk talked about one thing in the beginning, wine. He talked about it on one platform, YouTube. He broke through the wall talking about wine on YouTube. Now he talks about everything. Brene Brown talks about one thing, shame is the problem she solves. Dave Ramsey is a $200 million business. They have 1,000 employees. They reach 15 to 20 million people a week. Dave Ramsey reaches. He talks about one problem, debt, how to become debt free. Amazon in the beginning sold one product, books. Now they sell everything, but that's not how they started, right? Tony Robbins, Oprah, they can talk about everything because it's Tony Robbins, but you cannot. You, when you are starting, cannot. And for me, I broke through the wall on procrastination. I became the world's leading authority for several years on what we came up with some new terms. We call them priority dilution, creative avoidance, and classic procrastination. And then my first book, Take the Stairs, hits the New York Times, and yada, 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 and things roll. And now we're more in the business of teaching influence. But that is the real key, is to be known for one thing. And the genesis is to go, what problem do I solve in one word? If you don't know what problem you solve in one word, there's no way in hell your customers do or your prospects do. And they can't buy from you if you don't have that piercing clarity.
I love it. Mic drop moment, right? It's true, because a lot of people say, well, I want to be able to serve this type of person. I want to be able to serve this. I want to help these people. But it's like, find one person that you want to help first. Like, who is your target audience? Who is it that you want to serve? And then as a repercussion, you're going to get other people that will come in anyway, but it's not going to be your main focus. So what is the Brand DNA Helix? Can you just walk us through, some of the 6 parts of that? Because I think that's something really important when you're getting started, to know like what it is that I want. Because I see loads of people go, well, I want to help men too. Well, okay, you will do, but maybe women at a specific certain age, and then you're going to get their husbands, or you're going to get their brothers or their family. But how do we start our own brand, DNA Helix? And can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So the best piece of branding advice I've ever received came from a guy named Larry Winget. And I'm going to share with you what it is. And I wish this was a Rory Vaden quote. It's not a Rory Vaden quote. This is a Larry Winget quote. I wish I could. But here's what Larry said to me. He said, the goal is to find your uniqueness so that you can exploit it in the service of others. Find your uniqueness so that you can exploit it in the service of others, which is exactly what we're talking about here with the piercing clarity and breaking through Sheahan's wall. It's finding what makes you unique. Ironically, Rebecca, Larry was not in the business of teaching people how to find their uniqueness. So when we had to start a new company and we're like, what are we going to do? We're like, oh, well, we should teach people how to do this, because this was like what we helped Lewis with and so we created a process which is called the Brand Dna Helix, which is just 6 questions that you ask yourself. Or, you know, if you're working with us, we do one-on-one coaching for personal brands, right? So that's exclusively what we do, is we only work with personal brands, and we do this one-on-one coaching. And so if you were to ask yourself these 6 questions and you were to brainstorm answers to all 6, at the intersection or the overlap of all of the groupings of these 6 groupings of answers is where your uniqueness lies. So the first question we already talked about, it's what problem do you solve? So you got to, brainstorm a list of what are all the problems I could solve. The second question in the Brand Dna Helix is, what am I passionate about? Okay, so you have to reconcile, what are the things I could help people with? For example, my undergrad, a lot of people don't know this, is accounting. I went to school for accounting. I am really good with spreadsheets. Like, you know this because we've talked about business valuation and some of the things we teach in phase 4 about, selling your company, which has driven a lot of numbers. But I am not passionate about teaching people how to build spreadsheets. So it is a problem I could solve. There's a lot of things you could do, but it doesn't pass the passion question. So when you ask yourself, what are all the things I'm super passionate about? And not just things that make you happy, but you should also look at what pisses you off. What makes you mad? What makes you angry? Another one is, what makes you sad? Like, what breaks your heart? And, for me, Rebecca, like when I remember being in my early 20s, sitting in an audience at this event with thousands of people, looking at the speaker on stage saying, one day I want to be the guy on stage. And so my heart goes out to what we call the mission-driven messengers. Brand Builders Group exists to serve these mission-driven messengers, these people who feel this calling on their heart to serve people, and yet they don't know how to do it. They don't know what step is. And, we've spent, 20 years of our career figuring out how to do it and going, I'm passionate about that person. I love that person. Even though I don't know them yet, it's like I have love for them. So, who can you fall in love with as your potential customer? So that's the passion question. The third and fourth question, which we'll talk about these, and then we'll talk about, the last 2 together. The third question is, what do I research? Meaning, what do I learn about? What do I have head knowledge of? And this is important, Rebecca, especially for personal brands, because a lot of us are so focused on being the teacher that we forget that the first job of a teacher is to be a student. In order to be a great teacher, you must first be a great student. You have to learn aggressively, right? You have to study. And so the things you learn about point to your uniqueness. It can be the things you went to school for, but it's more about going, what is the thing that you would learn about on a Saturday afternoon when you didn't have to, if nobody was paying you? Like, what would you spend time learning about? That gives us and our team, our strategists, it gives them clues and insights as to what your uniqueness is. So it's kind of like head knowledge, or you could call it education. Now, the fourth question is, what do you have results in? Which is different than research. Research is education. Results is experience. Results is, what have you freaking done? What path have you actually walked, right? Like, I can teach people to become a New York Times bestselling author because we've done it. We've done it several times. We've taught several people how to do it. We know how to become a Hall of Fame speaker or a viral TED Talk person. Like, we know how to build an 8-figure business because we've done it. So, but when we started, we didn't know. So this is, our first company we were in our 20s. What did we do? We taught people how to sell. Our first company was teaching salespeople how to sell because I had gone door to door. Like, I had a background in sales. That was one thing I could do. That's different than what I do today because I've done different things. So it's not about going, oh, I have to be a world famous yada yada. It's just going, here's what it is. If I were going to give you the shortcut, all right, Rebecca, like if there were a shortcut to this, I'm going to give it to you. You are always most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. You are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So you have to ask yourself, what problem have I solved? What question did I answer? What challenge did I overcome? Whatever that is going to be, we use the term the fastest path to cash, is that is going to be a place that we look to for your uniqueness, which is going to be the most monetizable, the fastest for you. So those are the first 4 questions of the Brand DNA Helix. The other 2 apply to money, which, we can talk about if you want.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Yeah. So, do you remember the dares thing? I think I shared this in the mastermind with Lewis.
Yep.
Okay. So questions 5 and 6 of the Brand DNA Helix. So questions 1 and 2, what problem do I solve and what am I passionate about? Those 2 together sort of resolve the issue of what do you want your business or brand to be about? Questions 3 and 4, which is what do I research and what do I have results in? Those address the issue of what should my business be about? Like, what do I have the right to teach on or to talk about? Questions 5 and 6 are money questions. They are what business, like, how could I make money the fastest? All right. So question 5 is, what would people buy from you? So like, if you are working with us, we take you through this inventory of like, what are all the things that people might actually buy from you? And there are only really 5 ways to monetize a personal brand. There's really only 5 ways to take a pile of followers and turn them into a pile of cash, or at least 5 primary ways. And we call these the PAIDs, PAIDS. All right. So if you're taking notes, you write this down. The P stands for products, physical products. So you can create a physical product. Like, you just launched this, right? You just launched a clothing, some like workout accessories as a part of your brand. Now, you're a much more mature brand than most of the people probably listening, right? So you've got a huge following. You've been at this for years now. But when people first start, we're going to encourage you to choose one of these, not multiple. But products is one. You could have a day planner. You could have a clothing line. You could have, cups. You could have any type of a widget or invention. There's lots of physical products you could do. A book is a physical product. The A is ads and affiliates. So ads and affiliates is an interesting business model. This is what Lewis's business model is. Lewis's primary business is not selling anything to his audience. It's selling other people access to his audience. So if you don't love selling, but you're great at throwing a party and you're great at building an audience, ads and affiliates is a great model for you. But you have to know that your income is going to be dependent based upon and proportionate to the size of the audience that you can create. But it's a great model. The I in PAIDS is information. So there's been an explosion of this. This is selling information products, video courses, membership sites, assessments, certification programs. There's been a boom of those for a lot of good reasons. The D in PAIDS is deals. So deals is when you get paid by a publisher, like a third-party person pays you for the creation of art, whether it's a TV show or a radio show or a brand deal. You get paid independent and irregardless of how well the product performs, but you get an advance against royalties usually. And then the S is services, PAIDS. So services is one-on-one coaching. It's consulting, speaking, training. It could be being a personal trainer. It could be, by the way, the other thing with services is your existing job. And Services is the fastest path to cash. Typically, it's exchanging time for money. You're going to get the most amount of money in the short term from services. Now, the problem becomes that services are the least scalable in the long term. So if you're looking for an escape route from your corporate job or something, you're typically going to start with a service like being a coach or a trainer of some type. But then long term, you got to create more scalable income, which we'll talk about in a second here. But the other thing about services that I want to say is that some of you already have an existing business. You either started a company, or like we do a lot of work with network marketing companies and direct sales companies, which we love, because when you are a part of a direct sales company, you don't have to do any of the work of creating the product. You don't have to deal with R&D. You don't have to deal with like regulations. You don't have to deal with logistics, packaging, shipping, inventory. You don't have to do any of that crap. All you have to do is sell the thing, and you can do sales, marketing, and leadership and build an empire. So the fastest path to cash is to build a personal brand that monetizes the thing you're already doing. So it's to bolt a personal brand onto or as the engine of the business you already have. Now, you may not want to do that, which is fine. That's a part of your uniqueness. But those are really the only 5 ways to make money: products, ads and affiliates, information, deals, and services. That's really how you make money.
And I think that's why, I love direct sales so much, is because it is the easiest way to get started. It's like you can sign up for a less than $100. It's a product that you already love, that you're going to recommend to your friends anyway. When you go and watch a movie,
right.
You're going to tell anyone anyway. Then you get an amazing support structure. I mean, it completely changed my life. I didn't even know that there was a thing that was direct selling until I was 23, I think 25 years old. And I was like, if I knew about that when I was 17 and selling fake Chloe bags on eBay, I was like, I would be a millionaire by the time I was 25, because it's such an amazing opportunity as long as you're willing to work hard, you're willing to keep pushing forward. And it's not easy. It's not a quick get rich quick scheme. It's something that takes
it's hard.
And it is hard. But it is the easiest way. It's the simplest way to get started, because you already have a product. Like you said, there's already customer service, it's already have all the shipping. I mean, it really is amazing. And I think that's why, if we can lead into the next thing, it's like, why is it so important to keep sharing your story, your own personal story? Because we've touched upon your uniqueness. And, for me, when I got a result using the products, from a direct selling company, that's what changed my life. And I think that if you're trying to get people, to, come into your vision and come into your community, it's about constantly sharing your own experience of what's happened to you, which creates your uniqueness. And so that other people can be like, oh my goodness, me too, me too. Why is it so important to keep on sharing your story? Even if you're like, I just shared it like a month ago or 2 months ago. It's because there's more people all the time coming in.
Yeah. And you don't really get tired of hearing it anyways, right? It's inspiring. Like, every time I hear Dave Ramsey's story about how he went bankrupt, right? Like, he was a rich kind of like real estate tycoon, but he was overly leveraged. He goes bankrupt and then rebuilt. It's like, I love hearing that story. We love hearing those stories, like the same comeback story we've always heard. It's why we love all the, like, I love Remember the Titans and Miracle and like all these cheesy Disney movies, because we love hearing the story. So people don't ever get sick. Here's why. Life is hard. And so we never get sick of hearing the story of somebody who had life hard and who overcame it. Because every day life is hard. And so every day, this is a quote from my first Take the Stairs book. One of the things we say in there is that success is never owned. Success is only rented, and the rent is due every day. Success is never owned. It's rented, and the rent is due every day. Why? Because life is hard every freaking day. I don't care if you're just starting out, right? Like, when I was going door to door, my life was hard. Today, my life is still hard. right? Even where I'm at today, it's still hard, right? Now I'm trying to parent these two little monkey toddlers running around, and we're starting a company, and it's frustrating. Like, it's hard to have enough time to do the things. And once you've built a successful company, all the things that should be happening. So when you start a new one, you live with this constant frustration of the 1,000 things that aren't happening that should be happening, but you don't have enough resources to make them happen again yet. So life is always hard. So people will never get sick of hearing that story about how you got doors slammed in your face, and all the people who told you no, and all the rejection you went through, and all the fear that you had, and all the pain that you experienced, and how you were made fun of as a kid, because all of us are going through that every day. And so when someone else says it, we go, oh, thank goodness it's not just me. And it's a reminder that if they overcame it, I can too. And so it's a powerful, visceral way to connect to other people.
I think that's so important when you just said about life is always hard, because I was looking back, I think, my day to day, there's things that are hard that I have to deal with right now, but I'd never had to deal with that 7 years ago. I was dealing with something different, even 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And so it's a different kind of hard, right? Because you know what to expect, and you have more personal development to be able to deal with the things that you're struggling with.
Bingo.
Hard because you're at a different level. So for example, there's things that I want to achieve right now, but they're hard because my goals have got bigger. Whereas I started, 7 years ago, my goal was just to get to 100,000, subscribers on YouTube. And that was hard. Now I'm trying to hit 1 million. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is just as hard as it was. So I think that's such an important concept, because, people, when they first get started, they're like, oh, this is hard. It's like, yes. And it will keep being hard because your goals will keep growing and get bigger, but you'll be able to deal with it a little bit better. You'll be able to deal with the hardness because it's what you expect. At the beginning, it's like when things are hard and difficult, it throws you off. Like, it's like, it puts you off your game. Like, oh, I don't know, do I really want to do this? But you and I are so invested in what we do. It doesn't matter how hard it gets, we're not going to give up. And I think that's what you have to remember, that at the beginning, is that you just can't give up. If you're brand new to starting anything, you
Totally
can't give up. And just to finish, why do you think it's so?
Well, so hold on, just one thing on that, because you mentioned personal development, right? And I just posted a video about this because I was, it hit me hard in this interview that I did recently, where it's like, your mind is the only thing that you will always have with you the rest of your life. Like, even if you don't have clothes, you'll have your mind. Even if you don't have a house, you will have your mind. And yet we don't, for some reason, people think it's silly to invest into their mind. Like, to grow their education, to grow their personal development. It's like, somehow it's like, oh, I don't want to feel needy if I sign up to go to this conference, or if I take the time to read that book, or I get a coach. And yet your mind is the only thing that you have. And so, yeah, life is always hard, but the more you have done personal development, the easier it becomes to just navigate through those things. And you just have perspective, knowing we're going to figure it out. Like, it sucks right now, I know we'll get through it. We'll find a way. And I do want to mention on that note too, Rebecca. So if anybody's listening right now and they do want to take their personal brand to the next level, and they're just kind of going like, you know what? I do want to grow my personal brand. I do want to reach more people. I want to make more impact and have more influence. If you go to freebrandcall.com/Rebecca Louise, okay, so freebrandcall.com/Rebecca Louise, you can request a call with our team, and you can apply to do a free one-on-one call with one of our strategists. And they will do an overview of how our entire journey works and what our big picture is for breaking through Sheahan's wall to, like, separate yourself from all the noise, find your uniqueness, and then scale your brand and scale your reach as you scale your reputation. And, I am a product of personal development, just like you. I've spent my whole life doing it. And, now we've built, this will be our second company teaching people through one-on-one coaching, right? So we do one-on-one coaching. So anyways, go to freebrandcall.com/Rebecca Louise if you're interested in getting some personal development specifically for how to build and monetize your personal brand.
Yeah, and I highly recommend that, guys, because this is something that I've been through. You know, I've been part of Brand Builders for the last year, and it's really helped me define where it is that I am right now, my DNA helix, and then taking me for where I want to be. So just having that support system around is amazing. So excited for you guys to have that one-on-one call. So just to recap and to finalize, my last question for you is, why is it so important to create your own business and side hustle? Why is it so important that we should, you know, invest time and money into doing that?
Yeah. Here's why. Because there's somebody out there who needs you a lot more than you need them. Right? Like, I know when you hear about the side hustle and stuff, it's like, how do I make more money? How do I create more freedom? Those things are all great. Like, I'm not hating. We love money. I mean, we're good at making money. You know, like, we don't have any problems with money, but we're about mission over money. And that's why we say mission driven messengers. And because I'm telling you right now, like, if you have this kind of calling to like build a personal brand or build a business or start a network marketing company, you have some calling in your heart, this like inkling to go, gosh, you know, I want to do something big. I want to make something of myself. Like, I want to push myself. I want to go after it. We believe that the calling that you feel on your heart to do something big is the result of a signal that is being sent out by someone else. That there is some other person that is literally asking right now for help with some problem. I mean, just think about this for a moment, that there could be a person, there is a person out there, at least one person, probably lots of people. If you feel that prompting, if you feel that Holy Spirit, if you feel the universe, like if you feel whatever term you want to call it, that calling to move in a direction, we believe it's because there's someone out there right now who is begging and pleading and could literally be on their hands and knees right now praying for answers to questions that you have already answered. They are looking for solutions to problems that you have already found. They are facing challenges and struggles that you have already overcome. And that person needs you more than you need them. And the only reason you wouldn't connect them is because of your own fear that I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I don't deserve it, I'm not smart enough. And all that fear is crap. Fear is your creativity working in the wrong direction. Fear is you convincing yourself that something isn't possible when it really is. It's allowing your mind to just wander. And what's magic is that you never feel fear, though, when you think about other people, right? Like, when you don't feel fear when you're going, oh, I need to rescue that person, I need to help that person, I need to save that person, I want to support that person. Fear is so self-centered. When you are scared, you are thinking about, I'm not good enough, smart enough, blah, blah, blah. When you think about service, when you think about helping other people, that fear goes away. There is no fear when the mission to serve is clear. So make your brand, your personal brand, your business, your side hustle, make it about the person you're trying to serve. And I feel very, very confident that you will activate and you will be tremendously successful.
Absolutely. You know, if it's not about you, it's about who you serve. When you do first get started with anything, it's what's in it for me, what's in it for me. But it very, very quickly switches to, oh my goodness, this person needs my help and I've just been able to help them. And that's given me, you know, one, it's giving you that tingling feeling inside that you're like, oh my goodness, I was able to help someone. And it also gives you the confidence to be able to go and do it again. So, and it's just so, it really fills you. It's about purpose as well. You know, when you have purpose, you know, you get excited to wake up every day. When you have vision, you're ready to go. You've got that burning desire inside of you. So I concur to everything that you just said. Rory, thank you so much for your time and your value that you have given to our audience today. Where can they find you to follow you and all of the things? Congratulations on hitting 10K on Instagram. You know what? It's all about the journey, right? So where can they find you?
Yeah, I would say start with freebrandcall.com/Rebecca Louise. Just go there. If you request the call, you'll figure out how to get connected to us. Of course, I'm online, and you can find me on social and all that stuff. But I would just go to freebrandcall.com/Rebecca Louise if you want to stay connected.
Perfect. I'm going to add all of the details in the description below. But thank you again, Rory. It's so good seeing your face. I'm excited I think I'm booked in to do phase 2 in January sometime. So I've got my date.
I like it.
I'm locked in. I got my new notebook. I'm ready to go.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Rebecca. All the best.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of It Takes Grit. Make sure that you check out that link. You get your call booked in. And of course, leave us a review wherever you are listening. I love you guys so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.